What in the darn tootin' heck is up with me and Microtech Knives? What's going on, guys? Edged Mindset here. We've got a topic video. I've received a lot of questions asking what is with you and Microtech lately? What's with the obsession? Is there something going on here? What's the deal? So I wanted to address that in this video and talk about why Microtech is one of, if not the favorite knife company of mine, or my favorite knife company. I've got some specific reasons as to why I really like Microtech Knives, but before I start that and dive into those reasons, I wanted to talk about, is there any weird shenanigans going on? Am I employed by Microtech? Do I have some kind of deal with them? No. David has been a friend of the channel for a while now. He watches my content. He's probably going to watch this video and give me a thumbs up, right, David? He's an awesome dude. I've met him in person. He's helped me out. But no, I don't have any like official connection with Microtech or there. Two reasons. I've always liked Microtech. If you go back into all my videos, I've featured them 10 years ago on my channel. I've extensively featured them like a year and a half ago. I went through a huge Microtech phase. Two, I just kind of do this. I get obsessed with specific makers and models and brands, and I kind of just obsessively hyper focus on them and I collect them, and then I usually kind of move on to some other things. But Microtech has always been kind of a staple of my collecting and owning, and I've always kind of come back to them. And even just, I don't know, we'll talk about that in a minute. I absolutely love Microtech Knives. That doesn't mean they don't have their flaws. For sure they do. And I've been vocal about it. I've teased them here or there on certain things and things Tony has done and said, and some practices in the past especially that have been a little bit questionable. So by no means am I a complete fanboy who overlooks that stuff. I will call them out. I just don't let it hold me back with how much I love the company. So let's go through the reasons. Number one reason, they're a legacy brand. And I tend to like legacy brands. And what do I mean by that? They've been around a long time, and they've been pivotal in the knife community. And that's important to me. It's not important to everybody. Some people say, I don't care. I don't care what they've done in the past. I don't care if they've been innovative. I don't care if they have a history. I only care about the object that's in front of me, if it's done well, if it's a good value, and if I like it. I'm not like that. I like brands. I like history. I like how important Tony and Microtech has been in the knife community. I like all the innovations they've done in the past. I've liked all the things that they've driven in the community throughout their history, right? They have done some amazing things, especially like whatever you think of Tony now, anything he said, or, if he gets upset about things or tried to sue people or whatever, he was instrumental in the community. He did things early on, and he did it on such like a grassroots style, making knives in his house, going around to knife shows and saying, trying to make a name for himself. And then the fact that he created such an innovative automatic knife company that still to this day, people collect and love knives from those early eras. I've got one from the Vero Beach era. It was revolutionary. Like the things he did, especially in the automatic world, were a big deal. I also just like the history. I like, and this goes for any legacy brand. So Hinder, Strider, Spyderco, Benchmade, all these big legacy brands that have been around for a long time. I like those kinds of brands because I like being able to learn new things about them. All the time I see some new knife that I didn't know existed, and somebody's like, yeah, this came out in 2002. Had this crazy lock mechanism in it, this, and this, and it was designed by so-and-so, and I'm like, that is so cool. I did not even know that existed. And I love being able to discover things like that. With newer brands, as good as they are, you just don't have that because you're like, oh, I know everything they've ever made because they've only been around for 3 years, right? Or they only, this is the only model they've done is this particular knife. And I've seen it and I've owned it and I'm kind of done with it. I like being able to do different kinds of collecting within a brand. I don't know. It's just one of those weird quirks. I like the idea of me saying, I am going to collect Vero Beach Scarabs, or I am going to collect 2015 Gen 2 Combat Troodons. Like there's a whole world of things you can get into within the brand that you can learn about. You can become an expert in it. You can become a resource. I like being able to do that. Now, depending on how far I go in that world, that's up to me to decide. But I like the option of having that big playground area to work in. So that's number one, legacy brand. Well, here's a subsection of that is nostalgia, right? So, and that's my personal bias. I was introduced to Microtech early on in my knife collecting. In fact, here's a little embarrassing story that I think a lot of people share. When I first heard about Microtech, when I was a newbie, a knife newbie, I heard people talking about Microtechs and automatic knives and things like that. And I'm like, Microtech? I haven't seen that on Amazon. I haven't seen that on what used to be called bladeplay.com. Now it's called Grindworks. Originally Grindworks, which is the cheaper version of Blade HQ, used to be called Bladeplay. Which for various reasons you can see that wasn't the best choice for a knife selling company. You're like, does every knife you sell have blade play? Actually, maybe, especially then. They probably did. I didn't see any Microtechs on there, and that was my world, right? Because that was my price range. And so all of the retailers that were in my price range couldn't find Microtech, but I could find M-Tech knives. And I'm like, that must be the same thing. When people are saying Microtech, they must be talking about M-Tech. And I thought that for a month or so before I realized, no, Microtech is not M-Tech. M-Tech is a very inexpensive Chinese-made knife company. Microtech is a very high-end USA-made knife company. And then when I found out who Microtech really was, I was like, I am never going to be able to afford one of those. They're way overpriced, grail knife status. And flash forward a couple years later, made it happen. Got some Microtechs, and the obsession has never stopped since. So I've got nostalgia there. It reminds me of my early days kind of collecting and things like that. And, it just brings back those memories. I had a lot of really cool Microtechs back in the day. The Whale Shark, the Select Fire, the collaborations with Strider. It was just part of that whole thing, and I've got fond memories of it. That's my own personal bias. Now, number two, that's number one, A and B. Number two is the design language. It's been consistent, and I absolutely like my weird neurodivergent brain really likes it when things are consistent in a brand and they have a consistent design language, and it all kind of flows. And Microtech does that to a T. Every one of these knives featured on here, made in China, made in US, manual, auto, out the front. They all look like Microtech knives. They all have that Microtech look. Even aside from the branding, even aside from knowing what they are, they have that visual like they're Microtechs. And Microtech, in my opinion, does that better than any other company. All of their knives look like they came out of the same brain. A lot of knife companies, it doesn't quite work that way. When they try to branch out into new models, maybe they make autos, they try to make manuals, vice versa. They don't always look like they're coming out of the same swamp, the same creative energy. This company has done that successfully through pretty much their entire career. Now, I'm not saying there's not some oddballs. Of course, every company has some weirdo designs where you're like, what is that? Who came up with that? But for the most part, they all look very consistent, and I really, really appreciate that. Not only the fact that it is consistent, but just the design language in general. I think they look cool. It's a cool combination, in my opinion, of modern and artistic, and it's got design flair, but it's not obnoxious, in my opinion. Now, once again, there are some designs from Microtech that are a little obnoxious. And there's some designs that I used to own that I'm like, I would never buy anything that wild again. But for the most part, I really, really like the way everything looks. And the fact that they're still doing it is crazy. In fact, I would really like to know who's doing this design work. Because it's so good. We're talking, I don't know. Who is this coming from? If anyone can answer that. This is the latest version of the Tanto Combat Troodon, and it's got this really slick Microtech look to it, but who designed this in the company? Is it one person? Is it multiple people? I'd really like to know that if anybody has an answer. Any insiders? There? Third reason, and it kind of connects to the last one. It's the fact that they have such a variance of models. You can get autos, you can get manuals, you can get fixed blades. And kind of going back into my number two item, They all look like they're born of the same company. They're not just these random fixed blades with a logo on it and you're like, oh, okay, well, it says Microtech. Doesn't look like a Microtech. They all, here, let me grab one. They all have that look to them, that same design language. I mean, this is a fixed blade, and it looks very much like all of these knives. And they have done this for years and years. A lot of the times, companies kind of are a little bit of a one-trick pony in terms of knife design. They have one platform they're kind of known for and they're popular for. They try to do a different version like fixed blade or an auto, and it's like mediocre. You know, it may be a fine knife, but it doesn't capture that energy and that design that their original model did. Microtech doesn't have that problem. You can stay in this brand and get all of your needs met. You know, assuming you connect with it, right? Assuming you like it, you can get all your needs met. You could be a Microtech only fanboy and have every kind of knife just about that you would ever want. So those are the reasons why I like Microtech. I think they're cool. They're a legacy brand. I have kind of nostalgia connected to them, and they just execute so well in terms of being consistent with their designs and things like that. They're also very smart in terms of marketing and pricing. They know when to put their foot on the gas and kind of charge a little more. They know when to kind of ease up a little bit and throw their fans a little bit of a bone in terms of offering some models at less cost, like the Ramlock knives, which came in quite affordable, especially like the MSI. What a smart move to do a budget knife, American made, with all the cool features of a Microtech in the top quality steel that they use on all their other knives. Just a smart move. Like they're smart with that stuff. So that's it. That's the reason why I like Microtech. And like I said before, I'm in a Microtech, I've said that word so many times, I apologize. I am in a little bit of a spurt with them. Ooh, gross word. I am in, I'm in a phase with them right now. It'll go away. I'll get into some other stuff. I usually go Microtech, Strider, Medford, and then I get into some weird, like Chinese weird ones, and maybe some fixed blades, and then move into Demcos, and then I come back, maybe Spyderco, and then I come back, get back into this. Those are kind of the cycles I go through. You can literally go through my video history and see these obsessive cycles with different brands. All right, guys, comment down below. Do you like Microtech? Do you agree with the things I said here? Even if it's not this, do you have a similar thing with other brands that you just kind of connect with and you like it for similar reasons? Comment down below. I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.